Uh-oh.
What am I supposed to see? We're live.
It says we're live, but it doesn't show us anything. Oh, I think it's working. I think it's working. It's working. All right, cool. So, hello everyone. Matthew Coast here with Helena Hart. Say hi, Helena.
Hi, everybody. Can I
Hey.
share this to my
What?
Facebook page? I'm gonna share it really
Oh,
quick.
yeah. Do you know how to share it?
I'll figure it out.
Okay. Yeah, there's a button, there's a link on the bottom right hand side of the streaming page. You can share it if you want to share it. And if you're watching and you want to share it, that's cool. You should share it for sure because it's awesome. And we're trying to help people out here. So, the topic for today is how to make a guy fall in love with you. I know that this is kind of a surprise. We do surprise live streams, which is probably the worst way to do a live stream. You should probably do live streams um, you know, like planned, not live. I think that's
Yeah.
probably better. So,
Right?
yeah, let's talk a little bit about, how men fall in love and, what makes a man fall in love. And I think there's a lot of kind of confusion around this, for sure. There's a lot of frustration out there about men not falling in love. Um, if you're struggling with a guy and you're not really sure what's going on, there's kind of different phases. And the first thing that I want to talk about is kind of the difference between lust and love, right? So, lust is like this thing that it's like this infatuation, it's like this attraction. Usually, it's a physical attraction that you have with a guy. And a lot of people kind of confuse that with love, right? And so they will have you can have lust for a really long period of time, and it's confused people into getting married to each other, even though it's a really bad idea to get married over lust. I think just the idea of marriage, just the idea of being in love isn't the best reason for marriage either. I think you should think about other things as well. Now I'm like preaching to people over here, but the difference between lust and love is lust is a very superficial physical connection that you have with somebody. Usually, it's butterflies in the stomach. It's feeling like you're really excited about somebody. But love is deeper. It's knowing. It's a lot of people kind of like to talk about it in this like spiritual type connection type of thing, right? So you're like in love with somebody. It's like you're in love with their soul. You know them deeply, and you love who they are. You love their imperfections, and when a guy's in love, particularly, you'll notice that he will love things about you that normally you're like embarrassed about, things that you're scared of. Whereas lust breaks really quickly and really easily. So if you're in lust with somebody, or if a man is in lust with you, it's very easy to kind of break that connection that he has with you. And it's very easy for him to want to leave and go somewhere else or do something else, or find somebody else. Um, Whereas if he's in love, it's like you're the only person in the world. It's like he just is like it's like when he sees other women, it's like, meh, who cares? Other women that he might have been interested in before, is are no longer interest he's no longer interested in because they pale in comparison to you. It's something deep is really what I'm saying. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Helena?
I love that. No, I love everything you're saying. I was just looking at the chat, the questions, and so they're coming through. So,
Oh,
hey, if
are
you're
people
watching,
talking?
feel free to let us know. Yeah. Help me. They also run from love because they don't understand the feeling. Yes. Okay. So if you guys have questions, type them in. We have about 30 minutes. So any, situation around this, so we would love to help you out. No, I love everything you were saying. And just there's so much. I just have so much to say about this topic. A lot of times women come to us and they want some kind of like strategy. You know what I mean? Like some kind of strategy or tactic or way to make a man fall in love. You know what I mean? Does that make sense the way I'm explaining that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm just curious what you're gonna say next.
oh. I'm trying to think of how to word it. I don't have anything planned for this. Just like off the top of my head. I would say that like mental strategies like don't really work when it comes to men and relationships, not in any kind of like permanent lasting way where we really end up feeling secure and loved in the relationship. They just kind of keep us up in our head. Like an example would be like playing hard to get, pretending that you're busy so that, to keep a guy interested, all those like superficial strategies to try to make a man interested or make him fall in love kind of just keep us up in our heads, which is in our masculine energy. And they just kind of add to this whole stuck feeling where we want something and we're not getting it, and it keeps us from dropping down into our feminine energy or dropping down into like the basics of love and romance. So what we're all about is not the superficial strategies or techniques, but how to really inspire that love and devotion from a man in a way that's like permanent and lasting, just like you were saying, that doesn't like burn out after the first couple weeks or months.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting to always hear things from like a woman's perspective, because from a guy, like from me, from my nerdy guy perspective, I'm like, okay, like I do have some tactics. I do have some things that I want you to do. But, and again, when I say that, I'm saying it from this place of being a guy,
Exactly.
and being a guy, when I think about like connecting with somebody, and maybe it's not just but being a guy, but also being an introvert and being super logical and being, a lot of different things that I am as, the type of guy that I am. I think about these different things. So let's move into yeah. I am her said. A lot of men kind of run from the feeling of love, and that's true. And the reason that happens is because there's a lot of pain, right? There's a lot of guys that have felt pain from being in love. I've felt pain from being in love. The first girl that I ever fell in love with, I wanted to, get married to her and, have kids with her and live happily ever after with her. And she, cheated on me with like 7 different dudes, like it was a pretty heartbreaking experience that I had with her, and I think most people that I talk to have had some heartbreak in their lives. And, there's a lot of people that kind of choose to run from love or to move towards love. And I think that there's ways to create a kind of an environment for a man so that instead of looking at you and feeling love and being like, oh my God, I want to run, you can create kind of an environment that makes him, feel it, kind of get that, like, oh my God, like I know where this leads to type of feeling that he might have, and then end up moving forward instead of like, pulling back and running away from you and trying to stay away from you.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great. Let's talk about that. Somebody just typed in a question. I'm just reading them from my phone. She said, "How do you nurture a man's pain from childhood, broken home, irresponsible dad, etc.? How do you balance the nurturing and encourage love?" Sort of along the lines of what we were talking about. Most of us have had painful situations in relationships. I know I definitely had, or from childhood. We've all had things we wish hadn't happened. We've all been hurt or like given ourselves completely to people and ended up totally heartbroken. So, I mean, what would you say? I'm sure she wants to hear a man's perspective on that. How do you nurture a man's pain from childhood, broken
yeah.
home?
Well, I think that there's a couple things around this, and there's uh, there's kind of this perspective of like, okay, I want to make him, feel safe and make him kind of do this work that he needs to do in order to feel safe, in order to fall in love. And to a certain extent, you can. Right, you can encourage it. You can make him feel that way. We were kind of talking about this the other day during one of our last live streams, where you create a safe space for a man, and for some reason there's a bunch of women out there that think that if you create safe spaces for men, then all of a sudden they're going to become beta males, but that's absolutely not true, right? For a man in a relationship, right? You want him to move towards you, and if you're like, like pounding on him, like you need to do this and shaming him and stuff, he's gonna pull away from you during times of being vulnerable because he doesn't want you to hurt him, and if you create a space where he feels safe, a space where he can feel loved, a space where he can feel unconditional acceptance, where he's not afraid that you're going to, make fun of him. There's a lot of women out there that, if as a guy, if I come up and hang out with her and I say anything remotely vulnerable at all to her, she'll like call me, a pansy or something like that, like make fun of me. And like from a guy's perspective, that can be fun, like this bantering, making fun of each other. But it also kind of like puts that woman in a category of like, I can't be really vulnerable around this woman, because if I am, she's going to take advantage of that and, hurt that and hurt me in that space. And so, yeah, I do think that, you can create an environment. You're like making a lot of noise over there.
I'm sorry, my light just turned off, so I'm trying to turn it back on. It's
Okay.
getting dark.
Yeah, so you can definitely create an environment for a man to come into where he feels safe, right? He feels open to get into that depth that we were just talking about of that's absolutely necessary for him to really fall in love, and to really open himself up. This idea of love is this space where a guy is like, willing to jump all in and just, give himself, a place where he can talk about anything, a place where he feels like he can be vulnerable, like he can talk about his pains and his wounds, right? And if you are, in your interactions together are, making fun of him or being sarcastic or putting him down or any of those things which are actually very masculine behaviors, he's not going to feel safe. He's not going to feel like he can do that around you, and it's going to limit his ability to open up to you like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I mean, there's just so many great comments coming in. As I said, there's a lot of running from love going on in this new generation. Someone says, yes, I've been going through that with a guy for like 1 year now. So yeah, definitely. And I always say like the acceptance all starts with you. If a guy sees you always like judging yourself and being really hard on yourself, a lot of times I found they won't feel safe to open up even on like a subconscious level, because it's like, he needs to see that you can handle yourself and your own feelings and feel safe within yourself before he's ever going to truly believe that you can handle his feelings. That's something I always say. But yeah, I think men need that safety. I always say men need two things to fall in love. They need safety and they need mystery. They need to feel that it's like exciting and thrilling to be with you. And a lot of women are already providing that side of it. Like they're just by being a woman and by being in your feminine energy, a lot of times you're already naturally kind of mysterious and exciting to a man. But a lot of women need help with that safety part, making a man feel safe to open up and safe to come towards you, because men don't have a lot of that in their lives. I know like we have girlfriends and a big like social network sometimes, and we can open up and talk endlessly to lots of different people in our lives. A lot of men don't have that. So if you're like that one person in his life that he feels he can open up to and bounce ideas off of and confide in, it's like you're going to be that one woman that he doesn't want to live without or lose out of his life.
Yeah, I want to, just speak to that for a second, just real quick. That is 100% true. Some people don't have that at all in their entire lives.
Yeah.
Some guys don't have anybody. They can't talk to their mom openly or vulnerably. They can't talk to their friends openly or vulnerably. I used to run this organization when I was in college. It was called Project U, and it's like this personal growth organization where you like learn about developing yourself. And people came in there and they were really just like, like it was a place where people could just open up. And I can't tell you how many guys would come to me crying, and just be like, man, I've never been able to talk about these things to anyone before in my entire life. Thank you so much for providing a environment where I can come in and talk about this kind of thing. And so yeah. I mean, I was out at dinner not too long ago with this guy, and it was funny talking to him. He was like me and a couple other guys, and this woman was there as well, and like this the guy that I was hanging out with. Was like making fun of the dude across from us, and he's like, yeah, like he came over, and the other day he was like all like, oh, it's really so great to know you, and like all this other stuff. I thought he was gonna try to have sex with me after that, or so, what I mean. You're just like like this is what guys are doing, what I mean. Like there's kind of like this weird, there's a lot of weird stuff around emotions with guys, and there's a lot of guys that can't open up to anybody, and yeah, so yeah.
Yeah,
That.
absolutely. Yeah, you as can be that one person that he opens up to and wants to. I know we talked about two live streams ago, and one of our one-on-ones from last week. He comes towards, like, he's pulling towards you because he's pulling away from something else, rather than feeling like he has to pull away from you and take space from you. It's a really powerful thing if like you're that safe space for him, that he just wants to come closer and closer because he feels so good every time he's with you. He doesn't feel like he's going to be judged or made fun of, or like you're going to take everything personally.
Yeah, and so the other thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of this, because we were being asked about, if a guy, how to create, like how to encourage a guy to do this, right? Like we can sit here and talk about how it needs to be done all we want to, but how do you encourage a guy to do this, right? And so I think one of the ways, the best way, in my opinion, to encourage a guy to do this is to be in your heart, is to be in your feminine, and is to be open. Like there's a lot of women out there that close their hearts off as well, and everywhere, regardless of what's going on, and I think that. If we're going to talk from like kind of a tactical standpoint, you can open up to a guy and it might feel a little awkward for you to do it. Oh man, but I'm just going to be talking from a guy's perspective here. Hellena, did you want to talk about a little bit about kind of connecting to your heart as a woman? And
Yeah, I think as women, a lot of times we have to go first. We just do. A lot of times we are the more conscious partner in the relationship or potential relationship. Just we are deeper than men in a lot of ways, generally speaking. We have to open up first because a lot of men are afraid to do that, or they don't want to do, they don't know how to do that. So if we can do that first and open up and express ourselves, not coming from a place of like expectation or trying to make something happen, but just really expressing how we feel or what's going on with us, that opens the door a lot of times for a man to feel more comfortable doing that as well. If you can learn how to do that correctly in a way that brings him closer rather than like pushes him away, you'll see that he will start to open up more to you. And that's when you can kind of show him that you have all the acceptance in the world for him. That's how you create that heart to heart connection. That's kind of like the overview.
yeah, for sure. Cool. So I think we've kind of talked a lot about that whole kind of area.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit about another kind of thing involved with a man falling in love, and it's something that I think is talked a lot less about, and I think it's as important, and it's a topic of value, right? And being somebody that he looks at as a valuable uh, kind of human being, somebody that is valuable to his life, right? The more valuable that a man perceives you to be, the more he will feel like excited about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's kind of a whole bunch, like, there's a big array of of what that really means, like value. It's kind of like this heady thing that, I came up with. But it's like, so for instance, one of the ways to be really, really valuable to a man is like what we were just talking about, like being in your feminine, and it's not necessarily like just being in your feminine, but being in your feminine to the extent that he's in his masculine, right? Because we live in this world where there's a lot of feminine dudes out there these days. But being in your feminine and being a compliment to him, is incredibly valuable to a man. And I think a lot of women don't realize how valuable it is because as a woman, so one of the things that happens in dating and relationships is that we tend to want to do to others or show others things that make them like interested in us, right? There's kind of two different ways. One is kind of doing things to other people that we like, right? That's a big one that I see a lot of women doing that I think is kind of a bad idea in some ways, right? So, for instance, like if a woman like really values a guy who has a great job and has all this list of like really great things that he's done in his life, a lot of women will like go into a date or into a relationship and they'll like try to like talk about all these impressive things that she's done. And to a guy, it's like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? Like, I found this woman that's smart and successful and, all these things. But from an attraction standpoint and from a, like opening himself up to fall in love with a woman standpoint, that does not create that kind of draw to him, right? What does create that draw to him is a woman who's in her feminine. As Helena was talking about a minute ago, she was talking about like having that mystery, right? Like the most mysterious thing that like because mystery is a great thing for creating attraction and creating that draw and creating that desire in a man. And like being in your feminine is the most mysterious thing in the world to most men, right? Like men see a feminine woman and they're like what is going on over there? You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, there's like this kind of like excitement and like you know like like this woman is like really awesome, and if he experiences enough of that, he will fall in love with it, right? Like if a man is around a feminine energy for long enough. I have a good friend of mine actually, is a dude. Well, he used to be a good friend of mine. We don't talk a whole lot anymore, but he like when I used to hang out with him, he was like Mr. Player dude. He's like out at bars all the time. Like meeting these girls, and he was always like hooking up with these new girls and stuff, um, and he always went for women that were very specific. It was like this blonde, like super skinny, like you know what I mean, like whatever type of woman. And he's been in this relationship now for about 3 years with this woman that is nothing of any of his types, right? And it's so funny to see it because it's like, like part of it's like this anomaly, right? Because it's like, how often do you see something like that? But like this woman that he's with is like, she's not skinny at all. She's not blonde, and she's none of the things that he like would normally go for, but she is incredibly feminine, and when you talk to him about it, he's like I don't know what it is about her. It's just like I just every time I see her, I just want to like I don't know, just grab her and like hold on to her and just make love to her, and it's just it's funny, like it's interesting,
Mhm.
and it explains kind of like this thing that guys experience when they see or like are around this feminine energy thing. So
I love that. I love hearing that. That's like just everything I always say. It doesn't, yeah, doesn't necessarily, matter if you're a guy's like typical type or not. It's like the feminine energy thing is like so powerful that it's just like, just totally magnetic. I love that. We're getting some really good questions. You want me to read some of them?
sure.
Okay. Let's see. Scroll up. What about a man's pain who has been cheated on by his ex? He's opened up about it, but he still has the knife in his back. I would be curious to hear what you have to say about that one. That's a great question. I get that all the time.
Here's a question, Matt. Please go ahead and answer it. Um, yeah, so a guy who, so we were talking before, and I guess we have to go back to what we were talking about before. I kind of love the value idea around love and attraction, but let's talk about this idea of yeah, man, opening up. So like we were talking about before, you can encourage a guy, you can create a safe space for a guy, you can do a lot of things for a guy, but at the same time, the guy has to move forward, right? And there's a lot of things that you can do from a tactical and technique standpoint, from a verbal standpoint, things you can say to kind of encourage him to look at you differently and be willing to open up, even though he wasn't willing before. But there's also kind of this thing where he has to take that step, right? He has to be willing to do it. Um, and so, man, God, should I say this? So, well, it kind of depends, right? Like, so as a woman, there's, you've got kind of this, uh, like limit, right? Because if you go and it depends on how your relationship is, right? So if you're in a relationship with a guy and you're like, this is a great relationship, things are moving forward, everything's going great, uh, I just kind of want things to be deeper. um, the question is, should you even do anything about it, right? um, I don't know. If you feel like you're settling and you're in a space of settling, I don't think that kind of uh, trying to do something to kind of force him to to open up in that way is necessarily um, all that beneficial. From a, but if you feel like you are settling and you feel like this relationship isn't kind of going the way that you want it to go, and you feel like he's not really moving in the direction that you want him to go into, there are things that you can do to open him up, but they're kind of uh, you know I don't know, they can be painful, like, because if a guy is in pain from his ex who really hurt him a lot, that means that anytime you talk about anything around that topic, it's going to be painful for him, and so um, fuck. Do I want to talk about this or not? It uh, you know what? I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna talk about it because I don't think that it's gonna be beneficial.
Okay.
Is
There's
there
no,
anything that you wanted to say about it, Helena?
all you can, so if you're not going to go there and talk about it because reopen up that pain, it's like all you can really do is be in the moment and work, create a connection with him in every moment you're with him rather than going back and encouraging him to like dig up the past. Why not just work on creating that heart to heart connection between the two of you right now? And if he's capable of getting over that. And it's funny, I just created a video like an hour ago on on what to do if a guy wants a relationship but he's scared. And that was one of the points is that he has weird relationship baggage. It fits right into that. So that should be coming out in a few weeks. Maybe that'll be helpful. But creating a safe space for him right now with you, rather than talking about it, going back and encouraging him to like, dig up those painful memories and try to convince him logically that you'll somehow be different. Maybe going a different route and just creating that connection with him in every moment you're with him, and see if he's even capable or willing to get into a new relationship. If I don't know what the situation is, if you're with him or if you're not, if you want to be with him, but you can't because of this. I'm not exactly sure of the details.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and the reason I'm kind of hesitant to talk about what I'm thinking is because you can go into like super manipulative kind of land,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're not doing it the right way, and you're not doing it from a good space, and um, he's not, or your relationship's not in the right space for it, it can be really harmful. And so there's ways to talk to him, like to encourage him. For instance, we talked before about this idea of saying things that are attractive, right? Like saying things are attractive. I think we talked about that in one of our other
Yeah.
live streams. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, if a man opens up to you in any way, right, and you want him to open up to you more, right, you can like show him gratitude for opening up to you in the first place. Show him, like, be, tell him it's attractive. Tell him, like, like it makes you feel closer to him. Tell him it makes you feel like he's more attractive whenever he does that kind of thing. Right, that's like the super like that is like the super lowest level of being manipulative in this situation as
I
possible.
wouldn't even say, I don't think that's being manipulative. Even just saying like, thank you for sharing that. I feel so honored that that you shared this with me. I don't think that's manipulative. I
Yeah,
think
like there's a lot of things out there that are kind of borderline manipulative, and so I just kind of like I don't know, I hate going into it because it's like, what I mean, like, because even just that, just saying that can be, you can use that in an evil way. You can use that to hurt a man. You can use that to trick a man, and if you change the way that you use it. And so I'm very very hesitant sometimes to talk about that kind of stuff, but.
I can tell just about, you get a certain look when you don't want to talk about something because you're afraid it's manipulative. And I totally knew that was what it was. Okay, someone said that's a great point. Oh, thank you. Love you too. You guys are so sweet. Karen says, I love that story about the skinny blonde type. Wow. So awesome. I love that. Someone else asked, what do you do if your man's angry and doesn't want to talk to you? If he doesn't want to talk to you, don't force him to talk to you right now. I would give him some space, let him cool off, and then see if he comes back towards you on his own. Don't. The more you try to like force it out of him and get him to talk to you when he doesn't want to talk to you, the more he's going to pull further and further away, right?
Well, and the more he's just going to get angrier and
Yeah.
angrier. Like, there's a thing that a lot of women do when they feel kind of disconnected, where they will like get on a guy and be like, "Hey, what's going on with you? Talk to me," and the dude's like, "Oh my God, get away from me! I just need some space," and it's kind of this disconnect thing that a lot of like men and women have, and if you're trying to like jump on a guy when he is like angry and needs his space, like for real, like, and I'm just saying this like in the most honest, upfront way possible. Like, if a guy is angry, and he's trying to distance himself from you, like, he may even be trying to protect you right then. Like, because if he's angry and he's just like, what I mean? Like, what I mean? I'm filled with rage, right? Like, guys are, we can be all kinds of mean, bad people, things, right? And if you're like, coming closer to him and he needs some space, give him some space for the love of God. It's like, he's doing that for a number of reasons. One, because it's more difficult, I think, for a lot of guys to kind of manage emotions. Like, it's really hard to manage a lot of emotion when you're a guy. And he might even be doing that. He might even be kind of pushing you away because he doesn't feel like you can be around him when he's like that. If you can just, like, there's this thing that I talk about, it, which is just like hanging out with a guy, right? Not talking to him, not bothering him, not doing anything with him, just leaving him alone, but being there with him at the same time, right? And that's a very powerful thing that a woman can do to kind of bond and connect with a man, is just be there with him without touching him, without talking to him. If you're a guy and you're hanging, like, as a guy, if I am with a woman that I really like and we're hanging out together, and like we hang out for an hour and we don't even talk or do anything, I feel more connected to her. You know, it's like
Totally.
this. It's this.
Yeah.
I don't know like what she feels, but I feel
No,
connected to her.
it's the best feeling. Yeah, it's the best feeling. I mean, we women we can go like talk to our girlfriends forever and get all the details about everything that's going on, and that's how we feel connected a lot of times. But men, just like you said, feel connected when you're just hanging out, you're silent. So when a woman's like comfortable with the silence, that's like a really powerful, attractive thing I've
Yeah.
found. Um, these are great comments. What if he tells you he's working some stuff out? Should you text him to say hi, or don't text or call until he reaches out? What would you say about that one?
Well, I think it depends. I think it depends on him. You can try contacting him if you do it in the right way. I don't think it'll be a bad thing. Um,
Yeah, similar question. How does a girl reach out to a guy who's shy without stepping into the masculine energy? It's kind of it's like similar theme.
well, there's kind of this thing that women do, which is kind of like an invitation thing, um, and it's uh, there's like reaching out and connecting in a masculine way, and there's reaching out and connecting in a feminine way. And the masculine way is like, hey, we need to talk. Like, let's chat, let's hang out, let's like talk to me. You know what I mean? Like that's a masculine way of doing things, right? Whereas a feminine way is like um, kind of like this question, kind of like this opening space, kind of like this invitation, you know? And that's attractive, right? The masculine way of doing things, like you need to talk to me, you need to, hang out with me, you need to do all these things. That's the not attractive way. That's the masculine, not attractive way. So, hey, do you need to go?
I have like an extra 10 minutes. I got an extra 10
Oh,
minutes
you got an extra 10 minutes?
because this
Okay,
is
fine.
really fun. I want to make sure we get to everybody's. Okay, is that okay? Is that good, or
Yeah,
do you need to
yeah,
go?
yeah. No, no, no.
Okay.
Did you want to speak to that at all?
Yes. Yeah. So for these two people, I'm trying not to like say names in case people don't want their names on here. But for the two, like, should I reach out? Ask yourself if see if you have an expectation attached to it. If you were to just like send a quick text and you didn't hear back, or you didn't get the response you were hoping for, if you're going to be totally devastated, if that's going to ruin your whole day or make you feel super disappointed, don't do it. Just give him a little space and see what he does. Give it a few days, give it a week, and just see what happens. But if you have no attachment to the outcome, if you're like, I'm just going to reach out and just say hi, something like really simple. We have a whole playlist of text messages, right? We have a bunch of videos like on how to text a guy. Those will like be really helpful for you if you more than what we can like have time to describe right now. But if you can do that and not have any attachment to the outcome or result of that, then just try it. Try it once. If you don't get, if he doesn't respond, then let it go. Just wait and see what happens. If you don't have this like huge expectation attached to it, if you're not trying to make something happen, then you can kind of do anything almost when you're coming from that place. Most of us are not at that place, especially if a guy's pulled away or we're feeling really anxious and we're trying to like reconnect the relationship or like recapture that bond. A lot of times we have these attachments to the outcome, and a man can pick that up in our energy, and that will keep him at a distance a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Already pulling
Absolutely.
away. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here and talk about expectations all day long, because
I
I
know.
really I think that expectations are kind of like one of the biggest barriers for most women between them and having the relationship that they want, because there's like this it's pure masculine energy, and it's not a good kind. Like it's like putting this thing on top of the relationship where it's like you know things have to go my way, and it's just I don't even want to call it masculine energy, because I think it's kind of toxic no matter um,
Yeah.
what side it's on. Is it's really like painful, for a guy, when a woman comes to him and she's like she has an expectation around the way that she communicates with him. he knows it immediately, right? And sometimes it's not a big deal. If he's in a good space, it's not a big deal. If you come up to him and you ask him a baiting question, right? And he knows that it's a baiting question, like the old, like, how do I look in this dress question, right? It's a bait question. You know what I mean? Or if she says something about whatever, and she's trying to get some kind of response from him, like a very specific response. It's to a man, it's like, it's kind of gross. It's like, ugh. Like, why are you doing that to me? If he's in a really, really good space, it can be fine, because he'll be like, oh yeah, and he'll just say what you need to hear, and he'll be like, yeah, whatever, whatever. But if he's kind of like, if there's something going on with him at all, and he starts feeling that kind of expectation where he knows that you're trying to get him to act a certain way, trying to change his behavior, trying to get him to stop hanging out with his friends, try to getting him to, start saying very specific things to you. It can kind of trigger him in a really bad way, and make him do things that you don't want him to do a lot. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So she said, thanks for answering my question. So, hey, how's your new job going? Is it masculine? Hey, how's your new job going? Could she text him that?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking
This
you.
is
Curious.
the Helena thing to do. I'm gonna read a comment on here and then ask Matt what he thinks about it. Yeah, you can ask him that. You can ask him. I mean, uh, yeah. I mean that. I don't see anything wrong with asking him that. If I'm like, uh, if I'm in a if I'm in a space where I feel kind of like a recluse, and somebody asks me about me, I'm a lot more inclined to, like, respond to that, right? Than, like, if somebody sent me a text and I'm kind of in this reclusive space, and they're trying to get me to do something, then I'm gonna be like, ugh. Like, because there's kind of this energy, there's this energy thing that men have, right, where it's like, uh, I think that one of we were watching a video the other day, about, like, it was a Matthew Hussey video. We were watching this Matthew Hussey video about what was it, micro efforts or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Effort really is a really, really valuable thing in a relationship, and it tells you a lot. Like, if a guy's putting effort into things. And when a guy goes into a reclusive space, that effort thing gets used up in these other areas, right? And so, like, trying to make him put effort in can be really a kind of an unattractive thing for him to experience with you. You know what I mean? But if you're, like, talking about, uh, if you're talking about him, he's going to, and he's kind of in this space, like, I think he's more likely to open up than if you put some kind of expectation into this text message that you send him, trying to get him to do something or act a certain way or respond to you in a certain way or do something.
Yeah.
And so,
That's exactly right. Yeah. Just ask yourself, who is this that's asking this? Karen, ask yourself, what am I hoping will happen before you send that? If you can answer that really strongly, well, I'm really hoping he'll get connected with me and we'll start a conversation, then that's a big clue you have an agenda. If your answer to that, what am I hoping will happen, is nothing, I just want to reach out, I have zero expectation, zero attachment to the result or the outcome, then you're fine. You can do anything. I think that's a great thing to ask yourself before you do anything towards a guy. These are all really great. Are you reading these comments? Oh my gosh. They're so sweet and amazing.
hey, something just happened to your something just happened.
What happened?
I think there's, like, an echo or something going on in your computer or something.
Oh, really? Is it still happening?
Yeah, it's really bad.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to go anyway, so maybe that's a good sign. Okay.
All right, so hey, can you like hit mute on your computer or something?
Yeah. How do I do that? Okay.
Down on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Okay, it stopped. You must have hit mute. Okay, so thanks everybody for being with us today. You know, I hope you got something valuable out of this. You know, and we will speak with you again soon. So everybody take care, and thanks for being a great part of our community.